Today is my great pleasure to invite Dr. David Hackos, a senior scientist at Genentech, to talk about his career path doing R&D at a major biopharmaceutical company. So, Dave, it's so good to have you join us today. Could we start by
My pleasure.
could we start by talking a bit about your current responsibilities at Genentech?
Sure. So I am a scientist or senior scientist in the neuroscience department, and I am one of about 10 other people in our department that are scientist level. Each of us runs a lab. So I have a small group of about 5 people, um, including a postdoc. I have a postdoc in my lab as well. But my major responsibility is to further our drug discovery efforts in pain research. So my area of research is pain neuroscience, and ultimately I'm trying to find drugs that inhibit pain and basically replace opioids as powerful pain drugs, but without the side effects of an opioid.
No, that's very cool. So, could you tell us a bit about how or what led you to this position?
Yeah. So when I was a postdoc at NIH back in the early 2000s, and I was studying ion channels, and I came to the study of ion channels through because I was originally trained as a physicist. So physics is my background, and I approached biology through structural biology. So I'm in part a structural biologist, X-ray crystallographer, that type of area, and and then I became interested in ion channels as kind of structural from the structural side of things, and that led me to Kenton Schwartz's lab at NIH, um, and eventually I realized that I could apply my knowledge of the structure function of ion channels to do drug discovery. So, ion channels are major targets of drugs. There are many drugs that are modulators of ion channels, and so I realized that I could get a really nice job using what I knew about ion channels to try to make drugs. And one of the things I like about drug discovery is that you are directly applying what you know to help people, ultimately to help patients, and that was really appealing to me. Um, I really like the idea that in industry, especially at certain companies like Genentech, as an example, you can actually continue to do academic science kind of at the same time. Like you have this mixture of academic science as well as drug discovery, and it kind of adds a lot of extra flavor to your scientific research career.
Yeah, thanks. That's wonderful to hear. And so, what types of skills and experiences are key to succeeding in your position? And if anything, what would you do differently?
I don't know what I would do differently. I was not, I think that is probably true with a lot of people's career choices is that they don't really know where they're headed when they're getting their education. You don't really know you're just kind of following your interests, right? What is exciting to you? And that's what I was doing uh, throughout my academic, when I was still, getting my PhD and in college and as a postdoc. I was just following my interests. I had no idea that my interests would lead to a particular career that had some kind of usefulness, you could say, to society. But but what I would say is that for people, um, trying to be, being interested in becoming a scientist in industry, you really want to um, follow your interests, learn as much as possible, but also have an eye on thinking about practical purposes of what your research would enable, right? Uh, like you know always have in the back of your mind that someday maybe you could use what you're learning about uh, and apply it to making a new therapy in some way that would benefit people. And I think that in general, academic science often has that. When you write your grant application, you talk about how your research is going to eventually lead to therapies for diseases, and that's exactly true. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. So, um, when you get your job in industry, it's going to be in part because you're studying something that the industry that is hiring you is interested in working on, right? So you may want to avoid kind of some sort of like exceptionally esoteric topics, though you never know what it always could be the case that esoteric areas of research could lead to very important practical breakthroughs. For example, you can imagine CRISPR technology, which was started out by people working on the immune system of a bacteria. How would you ever imagine that would be practical? I'm sure that people went into studying bacterial immune systems not thinking about how that would be eventually useful. But now, as you can see, that type of science, that type of basic research, eventually can find wide applications, right? So you never really know. Just follow your interest, I would say, is the most important advice.
Yeah, thanks. And do you have any other pieces of advice for PhDs or for postdocs seeking a position in the industry?
One of the reason that I got into industry is that I knew the right people, and so I never thought that I needed that knowing the right people would help me in some way. But I mean, and you hear about that. You hear people talking about how it's really important to network and know people, um, and I didn't really take that seriously. But I just happened when I was at UCSF doing my PhD, I happened to meet a lot of people, a lot of the faculty of the university, and I got to know them, and they got to know me, and so that's how I got my first job in industry. Was people basically? I was not even looking for a job. I mean, I was contacted by um, a professor at UCSF who wanted to start a company and wanted me to join because they had personally known me when I was a PhD student at UCSF. So yeah, it's networking is really important. Getting to know people, realizing that the scientific world is very small, um, and making those connections is really important. So I would definitely encourage people to, as much as possible, meet a lot of other people because you don't know who's going to help you get your career in the end.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for your excellent advice. And we look forward to inviting you over to the NIH in the near future.
Sure, that'd be great.
Thank you.